Hi, this is Crossing the Color Line. And in fact, I found a little quote on that I may give you next week. We would like to invite you to watch us on a regular basis. If you like what you see, please hit like. And very importantly, subscribe to us. It doesn't commit you. We're not going to bill you. Just hit subscribe and be one of our subscribers. Letha is going to introduce our title of our show tonight, and it should give you a hint about what we're talking about. And you might remember I said I was going to dress better and better each time. Well, this time, notice I got a haircut for you. All right.
Hi, I hope you've been watching what has been going on with the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico and how this administration has been handling it. We would like to talk about crossing the color line, and maybe we should change the topic, because Trump does something stupid every week. And this week he has just shown us, well, we've known it all the time, Trump is a racist. And all of those Republicans that are trying to say, oh no, he's not, he's this and he's that, until white people come to grips about the kind of person that they put in the White House. And I'm going to talk to you white women, okay? Because I am really, really angry about what I see going on in the Virgin Islands and in Puerto Rico. What Trump did was like he tried to do with Barack Obama. Make him show his birth certificate. Why don't you show your birth certificate, you racist? Okay? Why don't you show your grades? Because you are certainly, Trump, more ignorant than people who supposedly didn't grow up with a silver spoon in their mouth. And all of you people who voted for Donald Trump, you need to look at what you put in the White House, okay? Now, many people say that the time that Pat and I have talked about racism and interracial marriages and all of this, that I am often too, what's the word they use?
Strident.
Too strident or too hard on white people. You know what? And I said, I am not here to make white people feel good. Okay? Minorities have felt so bad in this country with the lying that goes on, and I have to talk about the flag, okay? Because you care more about the flag than you do people. Trump is running around talking about, oh, we should honor our flag. I haven't heard him one time talk about Black Lives Matter, when white policemen are going around killing black people at, like I said last week, at the numbers that they were hanged after slavery. Now, white people, you need to think. This country has supposedly been the model for what the rest of the world was supposed to be. Well, I have known for some time, because I am 75 years old and I have lived it. And white people are in denial. You use, I don't see color. Then what the hell is going on in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands? And these people are American citizens, okay? But they are treated with what you lay on them to pay. They're not treated like white people in this country, okay? They have to pay more for whatever they get. They didn't ask for that, because this country did not want them to succeed. With all of the limitations that they put on them, and Trump saying, well, they owe us money. I didn't hear him say that about Houston or Florida. Okay? So let's just look at and call it what it is. As Hillary said, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, then it's a damn duck. And the president that you put in here is a racist. Okay, let me get back to white women. You white women with college degrees that voted for this man. And part of the reason I heard that you voted for him is because Hillary was for freedom of choice if I decided to have an abortion. Okay? You don't care. White women, middle and upper class women who voted for this man, you don't care about the people who are already here. And that's my point. You want to care about something that you call is a baby, and I'm protecting the baby before it get here. Well, what about the goddamn children who are here now? Okay? Take care of those children. There are children dying in Puerto Rico, okay, in the Virgin Islands, because you voted for somebody who did not believe in abortions, okay? You don't know what the hell Trump believes because he is all over the map with what he believes, okay? And he doesn't know what he believes, but you voted for him, okay? So you take responsibility for putting him in the White House. And I hope you are watching how he is treated human beings. I remember when I was growing up, at that time, my mother told me, because she was a domestic, okay? And she said to me, white people care more about their dogs than they do you. Now, why did my mother say that? Number one, she worked in white homes. She was born in the South, a little town called Gilmer, Texas. And white people would let their dogs get into bed, let their dogs eat out of plates, but they wouldn't let me do it or my mother do it because we were black. Okay? So what she said was true because that's what she saw. And that's what I saw a lot. And what I'm seeing now in Puerto Rico is you still care more about your dogs than you do what's happening in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Island. And I'm going to let Pat take over because when I start talking about this, I am angry. Okay? And you can see I am angry. And you need to be angry.
Would you believe that we did not prepare anything? The only thing I got is a list of things that I've come up with over the last few months, and I put them in different places on the computer. I also have a lot of stuff that I've underlined in books I've been reading and so forth, but I've got tons of stuff here. What I'd like to do is go back over the things Letha said and point it, this idea about the people who put Trump in office. This is one thing I've been thinking about because I found myself becoming, over the years, and long before Trump, I found myself becoming less and less tolerant of people who take actions like voting that harm other people but say they don't realize it. Well, a perfect example now is voting for Trump. And we have had polling after polling showing that the issue is, for example, Trump got really high levels of voters in, and I don't know if it's counties or precincts, I'm not sure, that had the fewest non-white people. So the whitest areas voted for Trump.
Trump, that's right.
Now, if you ask, wow, gee whiz, you voted for Trump, are you a racist? Oh no, I'm not a racist, no. But nevertheless, we start looking at these patterns. Letha mentioned the shooting of black people by police officers when the black people don't have a weapon. Does that ever happen with whites? Yeah, it does. But let's look at the numbers. This is what conservatives don't want to do. And as I teased a little bit before about saying that George Lakoff, a linguist, has said, you know, using facts and figures and statistics with conservatives simply doesn't work because they don't think like that. They know in their heart of heart, in their gut, they know that Mexicans carrying drugs and bent on crime are still pouring across the border. The facts, how many, anything like that, simply doesn't matter. And as soon as someone like me starts, well, gee whiz, no, that's actually not going on. Oh, you're just a liberal and you're making excuses and blah, blah, blah. I say, well, where are your facts? Well, that just depends on, and then of course, I fought this for years, and Trump has given us a true gift. When his people, Kellyanne Conway especially, came out with this wonderful term, alternative facts. Conservatives don't need no stinking facts. They have their alternative facts, and they're just as valid. This gets into some pretty deep shit, frankly, because I think a lot of that has to do, and I'm going to have to define this a little bit for you. It has a lot to do with religion. I'm reading a book right now called The Death of White Christian America, and it's written by an evangelical Christian. Letha and I went to hear him speak at ASU, and he says, yeah, for a number of years, the mainline Protestant churches, with their emphasis on social justice and all that, have been losing members, yeah. And the evangelicals were saying, wow, we're going strong, and it proves Jesus is on our side. Guess what? Their numbers are declining. And I have some stats I'd like to trot out in another session showing where this is going. This Trump thing may be the last gasp of this block of people who believe that America is in the image of John Wayne, and they will read into the Constitution anything they want. They will, if someone does something they don't like, they'll call it unconstitutional. They did this to Obama over and over again. And you point out, well, it's actually not unconstitutional. Hey, you don't understand. We have our interpretation. Where does that come from? Bible study. That's where it comes from. This is my interpretation. My sect has the correct interpretation of verse 22 to 88 or something. We know. This other group over this other church, they're all wrong. They're all going to hell. Do you know how many Trump voters? And this is another thing. Tea Party, right? Tea Party. This book I was reading says the Tea Party isn't made up of a bunch of tax, protesters. They studied these people. They weren't tax protesters. What they were evangelical Christians. Something like 80% of the Tea Party was evangelical Christians. And I'll have more specific figures for you.
And there were these Christians out there calling Barack Obama everything but a child of God, and voting against him.
The idea that those people have some kind of morals is because they're Christian is really nothing but a joke. It frankly is. So I just wanted to mention something about the 472 counties, these are counties, that Clinton carried in the last election. Those 472 counties represented 64% of our gross domestic product. Trump's 2,584 counties accounted for only 36% of the nation's economic activity.
Say that again, because I people really need to hear that.
472 counties that Clinton carried represent 64% of the gross domestic product. Trump's 2,584, 5 times as many counties, accounted for only 36% of the nation's economic activity.
Can I add? Go ahead.
In other words, it's the poor people who are conservative and voting for Trump and so forth. And why is that? It's because, and I'm going to throw this garbage in here. It's like it's not sorted out. You need to think about it. When the evangelicals went for various conservative causes, one of the things they found The average evangelical voter was not particularly concerned about race. Now, we're not saying they didn't have funny ideas about people of color and so forth and blah, blah, blah. Just race wasn't at the top of their list. You know whose list it was at the top of? The leaders of the evangelical movement. I didn't know that. That really surprised me.
Wow.
The leaders are the ones that were wanting.
Falwell.
Absolutely. Well, look at their policies on their university campuses. No mixed dating and no, you know what I mean? Come on.
But we don't see color.
How far do you have to go before you face the fact that race is a significant element? More than significant, perhaps it's the decisive element. Now, here's a quote from a great Southern writer, William Faulkner. He said, "The past is never dead. It's not even past."
That's right.
And he is a Southerner that realizes that those ghosts from the 16th and the 16th, no, not 16th, not in North America, but from the 17th century, the 18th century, the 19th century, those ghosts are still with us. Okay, whether you're talking about, that's another story. American exceptionalism and our history and so forth. Regarding Trump, Letha's spoken in a very mean way about Trump.
Not mean, the truth.
You know, if you listen to his comments, his tweets on Puerto Rico, and you're not disgusted, I'm not sure you're even a conservative. I don't think
we know you're not a Christian.
I don't think you're a Republican, because there's a ton of people who are Republicans and who are conservatives and who are Christians who are disgusted by what Trump has said. But stop and think a minute. Stop and think a minute of the people who voted for Trump. What I remember, they interviewed some coal miners, obviously not working, okay? They interviewed some coal miners in West Virginia. And this one guy said something about, we know where the tax money is going, up in those ghettos up north and blah, blah, blah. This is the image. The government is taking this tax money from white people. And by the way, poor white people really don't pay anything in taxes, just like their states don't pay. Their states don't pay anything in taxes. It's places like California and New York that fill the government coffers, and the government then turns around and hands that money to these poor-ass states, particularly the ones that don't want unions, like Arizona, where we live. Oh, you can't have unions. Oh, no, that's terrible.
Many
But
of the red states.
It's the unions, it's the unions that puts money in workers' pockets. They turn around and they buy houses, they buy cars, they send their kids to college. But these people are so greedy up at the top that they don't want that to happen. They want to have all that money for themselves, and they're telling these poor-ass people, and by the way, we talk about white people, but there's a lot of black people that fall in this group as well, okay? And they are convinced that Jesus is going to come rescue them, and that if you, and the other thing is Southern pride, and there was a whole study that this lady did on that issue. These people will take anything as long as they don't have to see a government worker coming down and telling them what kind of food they should eat and so forth and so on. Before I let my wife wrap up here, I want to just mention, I think I already said this, about Trump and his name calling and his bullying and so forth. These are signs of a really of a failure to launch. You want to take it? I'm sorry. Of a failure to launch here with a human being. Okay, what does he do? He calls people losers. That's a playground word.
We'll call you back. We're taping.
That's a playground word. He calls himself the best and the greatest. Who made a big deal of that and just drove the country nuts by doing it? Muhammad Ali. Well, he was doing it precisely because it's supposed to drive people crazy. This man says, I alone can solve your problems, and the fools in his crowd go, yay! They're idiots.
No, see.
They're not idiots. Okay, I'm sorry.
Right.
They're morons. And when someone says, well, you did so-and-so, well, you're the one that did. That's a little kid talking, for God's sake. And named Rocket Man. This is one of the most serious things we're facing in this particular century that's only 17 years old. Nuclear weapons being launched. And he calls the head of that country Rocket Man. Like that's going to belittle. And that's what Trump does. He belittles people. That's what he did to the mayor of San Juan to bring us all the way back around. I'm going to turn it over to Letha. This woman got on TV and begged this country to come in and help her people in Puerto Rico, part of America, just like Houston, just like Florida. But you know what? Those cameras, you know what they showed besides the mass destruction? They showed a lot of brown and black people.
Absolutely.
That is what sealed it right there. We don't need to. We don't need to help those people. They're lazy. What did Trump say?
Yeah.
They want someone to take care of them. Just like the man in West Virginia, the white man talking about the poor people up in northern ghettos. They're lazy and they suck at the government teat. And yet, guess what? It's the liberal states, the blue states, that are feeding the goddamn poor states, especially the ones in the South.
And that was, and that was part of what was happening with the repeal, the Affordable Care, is they were going to take the blue states, which feed all of these red poor states, that McConnell and all of these southern people come in and they want to take the money from the blue states and give it to the red states. Look it up yourself. It is facts. And we'll probably talk about this more next week because, as I said, I am pissed. And it's not just Donald Trump. The conservative or the Republican Congress is just as guilty as Donald Trump for what's going on in the United States. Except for John McCain. John McCain is now coming back to the Maverick, I think, because he is taking a stand against
and he's also
his
looking
party.
at his legacy because he's reaching the end of his life, apparently. Sad to say.
So we're going to sign off now, and I hope you give us some comments. Good
Like
night.
us and subscribe.